Hi, good evening. As Naraja said, I'm Amy Weaver. I am President and General Counsel of Salesforce, but most importantly tonight, I am one of the executive sponsors of the Salesforce Women's Network, which I'm so proud of. And I have a wonderful group of women who are going to come and join this panel. I'd love to welcome them out now. And as we're getting started, a few things I wanted to tell you about. First, this is my 6th Dreamforce, and everyone has been completely different. The one thing that each one has had in common is that this is my favorite event. And I'm sure it will be again this year. One other thing I wanted to talk about as well before we get going is a year ago, I think many of you were probably here, and we had a panel up here. I was a panelist along with Leanne Markham, who is our moderator and a fantastic ally of the Salesforce Women's Network, Magdalena Yesel, who was one of the first investors in Salesforce, and a young woman named Venitra Swamy. And I thought Venitra really just stole the evening. She was so infectious in her joy when she was talking about artificial intelligence or what she was doing in her studies that she made a huge impression on me. Well, this morning, I got an email from Venitra. I had not heard from her in a year. And she said she was emailing to say Happy Dreamforce Week to me and to the entire Salesforce Ohana, and also to tell us that 3 months ago, she finished her studies at University of California at Berkeley. She got her master's degree with honors in both electrical engineering and computer science, and became the youngest person in the history of the university to receive that honor. So I wanted to pass that on to everyone. So she couldn't be here tonight, but I will pass along her congratulations from the entire group. So tonight we have a fabulous panel here of incredible CEOs. But just to start off, I want to make sure that there is a connection here with everyone. Now, I've already heard that there's some Girl Scouts in the room. And by the way, I've got to tell you, the lights are so bright we cannot see any of you out there. But I'm going to go like this. And if you were a Girl Scout or a Brownie, can you raise your hand? Okay, we've got a good group. All right, and as Naraja said, we have Sylvia Acevedo, who is the CEO of Girl Scouts. And by the way, I raised my hand as a former Girl Scout, but you can now become a lifetime Girl Scout by going to the Girl Scouts website and making a donation, and you can sign up to be a lifetime member. So I encourage everyone to do that. Okay, next question. How many people in the room have ever had to find childcare or care for an elderly relative or care for a pet? Everyone? Okay, I think we've got a good 80% of the room. All right, well, we are so honored tonight. We have Sheila Marcelo, who is the founder, the creator, and the CEO of Care.com. And Care.com is a wonderful online platform that is connecting caregivers with people seeking them all over the world. There are more than 20 countries and just growing incredibly. And it's truly an honor to have her here tonight. It's wonderful to see a company that's doing well and providing such an incredible need. And then finally, and this is the test for anyone who has not raised their hand. All right, who has electricity in their house? Everyone? We're good? Okay. Then you have to thank Geisha Williams, who is the CEO of PG&E. And I have to tell you a couple of other things just to brag about Geisha in case she doesn't do this herself. So when Geisha became CEO of PG&E, not only did she become CEO of a Fortune 200 company, by the way, that's bigger than Salesforce, don't tell Mark, but she became the first Latina to ever be CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And then, just to make it better, today Fortune came out with their most powerful women list, and I congratulated Geisha on being number 26, and she corrected me, she's number 24. So, congratulations. So I've told you a little bit about what these incredible women are doing now, but what I think is really incredible is the journey that they have had to get to where they are. And I'd like them to each tell us a little bit about how they got to where they are. And Sylvia just published a book, and the title of this book just sums up everything. It's called Path to the Stars, My Journey from Girl Scout to Rocket Scientist. So Sylvia, why don't you tell us about your journey?
Oh, thanks so much, and thanks all of you, and thanks Salesforce for having us. So I really appreciate it, and thank you all the Girl Scouts for showing up and representing. I didn't understand the importance of Girl Scouts in my life, which is an important part of the whole journey, until the mid-2000s when I got a call from somebody in the Stanford archives. And no matter what age you are, but when somebody calls you from an archives division, you feel old. And I thought, oh, but they wanted to know how it was that I got to Stanford, because I was one of the first Latina or Latinos to have ever gotten their graduate engineering degree. And they said, at the time, we weren't even recruiting in the part of New Mexico that you grew up. So how was it that you had the math, you had the science skills, you had all these things to not only get into Stanford, but to excel? And the more they kept asking me, I kept going back to that moment in Girl Scouts, which was, when I was looking at the stars and my troop leader showed me constellations. And later on, she helped me remember, that moment. So then I earned a badge doing rocket science, which was back then was just making an Estes rocket. And I got that hands-on experience, and I realized by doing that, I could do science, and I could do math. And after that, I started doing that, and I did it well. And so then when you do something well when you're a kid, you just do that again and again. And I got so good, I got to do it at the rocket science level, which is pretty darn good in math. And I realized that that experience changed my whole trajectory. And so then I ended up having this great career in technology, and I worked at JPL for NASA, and then I worked in technology for a lot of technology companies. But when I got that call, I realized, gosh, I've got to get back into this organization that did so much for me. So that's sort of the path. And the book is really a middle school memoir, because it's kind of that last-ditch effort for middle school kids to take math and science, because then the window closes and becomes a lot harder. So thanks.
That's great. Thanks. Sheila, what about you? What about your journey?
Yeah, Amy, thanks for having me. So I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I came here for college. The reason it's relevant for two reasons. One, I got pregnant in college. I went to Mount Holyoke, and my family was in the Philippines, and my husband's parents were deceased. At the time, I wasn't married yet. We were still dating. So clearly, we were going to run into problems, right? We didn't have a lot of great care. And being from the Philippines, I didn't realize, and you'll see the two inspirations in my life. First, being a young mother and struggling with care. My husband and I went through grad school, undergrad, and just our entire career trying to figure it out and what we were going to do with care. But it also happened when I launched care.com. About a year later, my mom was in tears and sharing with me that she said, it's really interesting that you are an industry where the #1 source of care around the world is the Philippines. And so in a unique way, not that I envision this, but I get to bring my whole self to work. My ethnicity, my being a mother, my being a Filipina. In so many different ways, it's become such a passion point of mine. It also worked out a lot like Sylvia that my education helped a lot. So I did my JD MBA at Harvard, but lo and behold, I didn't realize that doing a JD would actually help running a public company someday. But also the business school side allowed me to actually go into venture capital, go raise the money that was necessary, because this is a very difficult space to be in. It's extremely fragmented. There's a lot of myths. There's a lot of biases. You can imagine that people think it's a soft issue. How could you ever make money at care? I once had a very good friend who I went to business school with who advised me when I was going to her for advice around starting the company. She said, after all of your education and this great entrepreneurial experience that you've had in other technology companies, why on earth would you start a babysitting website? Like, just that makes no sense to me, because I was getting an offer to actually run a hot mobile entertainment company. And I decided that, what was more important? And I went to another mentor who said, when you pursue your career, are you going to choose something that is a pain business or a pleasure business? Pain meaning I'd done other things that help people find jobs, save money for college. And then this is about finding care. How many of you enjoy looking for caregiving? It's not that fun, but it's a real pain point. And I'll go into that more later. I mean, it really is. But pleasure being, No, not knocking mobile, entertainment, all wonderful things, but that's not who I was. So I think my journey's been, finding your true authentic self and bringing your whole self to work every day. And it's been 12 years, company's public, as Amy mentioned. We're in 20 countries. We're serving 30 million members. There's still a long way to go. I was just describing that we're so small cap in comparison to a $17 billion revenue generating company, but there's still so much to learn. So excited to be here.
Great, thanks, Sheila. And Geisha, you also were born outside of the U.S. and came to the U.S. as a child. I'd love to hear more about that.
Thank you, Amy. And it's great to be here. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to be here with all of you and Salesforce. Thank you for the opportunity. So I am an immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 5 years old. English is my second language. And like the typical immigrant, my mom and dad, my parents were political dissidents. My father was, in fact, a political prisoner in Cuba. We came to the United States with literally the clothes on our backs, didn't speak the language, had no connections, and so it was really about work. My parents worked, my dad in particular seemed to work day and night. He worked in a factory during the day. He washed dishes at night at a local restaurant, and he stocked shelves on the weekends. My mom did something called piecework. Anybody know what piecework is? Where you get paid pennies for every piece of work that you actually produce. And so my early years were really all about my parents, their work ethic, and really trying to find our way in terms of how we belonged, if we belonged in this great country. Somehow my parents were able to scrape enough money together to buy a tiny little speck of a grocery store, a bodeguita, a bodega, which is where I spent my afternoons. Every day after work, after school, I went to the local grocery store to help my father as a cashier. It's where I learned really good math skills really early. I knew how to make change, even hard change like that. And I think it developed a confidence in math early that I took with me all the way through high school and college. My story, though, is really all about my parents instilling in me this sort of love for education and to give back to our community, to make something, to really pay it forward, if you will, to this great country that took us in. I went to college. I was good at math. I had confidence in math. I studied engineering, and I graduated with high honors and went to work at the local power company, where really my aspirations were pretty modest. I wanted a good job at a good company. I am the only person in my family to go to college. I'm the first and only that had any sort of corporate type of experience, so I had no real roadmap. I was just, again, trying to do my best. And that's where something magical really happened and why I want to share the story. I had a mentor, and mentors are so unbelievably important to us all. And as I think a 23 or 24-year-old, he asked me the question that all mentors seem to ask, which is, so what are your long-term career aspirations? And I think I had a glazed sort of look in my eyes, like long-term career aspiration. I don't know, maybe someday I could be a supervisor or a manager, maybe, if I worked hard and got lucky. And he said, Geisha, someone has to run this company someday. Why not you? Why not you? And, every time I say that story, I get shivers, and I just did. Because it was a lightning bolt for me. Why not me? Latinas weren't running companies, immigrants weren't running companies, women weren't running companies, but yet he saw something in me that maybe I didn't see in myself, that inspired me. And that question, why not you, is one that I carry with me. And I carried with me my entire career. So how did I become CEO? I took every hard job. I took every tough assignment. I took everything I could to actually make a difference in the company that I was working for, to give it my best, to give it my all. And good things happen, I guess, when you work hard and you deliver results and you treat people well. And this why not you was a big part of my motivation, a big part of my path, if you will. Someone's got to do the tough work. Why not me? Someone's got to do that project. Why not me? Someone's got to be CEO of a Fortune 200 company. Why not me?
that was terrific. And Sheila, I was so taken by your comments about leading with authenticity and having a job that brings your whole world together. But I know it didn't start out that way for you. And I was reading something that you wrote that really resonated with me. And it was about the fact that for your first job, you didn't mention you had an infant at home. Right. And I recall in the law firm knew I had a baby. I didn't tell my clients. I didn't want them to think I was giving less than my all. And I think I also feared that they'd think I was a bad mother. That's if they knew. Can you tell us about your experience and how do you think we bring out that authenticity going forward?
I think it is a journey. You know, it's interesting. If I recollect, you were sharing the story of upbringing. I started answering phones for my mother and also doing accounting for her when I was in elementary school. And I loved math and I got like really into it and I was really driven. And I remember as a child being very confident and not ever being held back. This feeling that I just kept trying. And then I think, motherhood, coming to the United States, studying here. I remember my first year of law school being in the room with all these amazing, brilliant kids, and this immigrant in me had fear. And it was the same fear that I felt applying to my first job, that I felt that I was going to be judged. That if I told them that I was a young mother at 19, even for summer internships or whatever it may be, that I'm not going to get the plum positions or the plum projects. And so I hid the fact that I was a young mother. All the jobs that I applied for, I just acted as if I was my age, not worrying about anything at home. But the reality was I was carrying a pretty heavy load, considering I was also a breadwinner because my husband's parents were deceased and he was going through a very difficult time in his family, and he was deciding to be a social worker. I got catapulted in this position of being the breadwinner in my family, being an immigrant in this country, and not getting a lot of support. And I started to look around and pinched myself, and I said, okay, I could be fearful, or I just got me. And I gotta go figure this out, and I've got a kid at home. So I hid the fact that I was a mother, and I just kept my heads down, and I just worked hard, and I kept wanting to get the difficult job and proving the point. But one thing was very clear, back to authenticity. Within that first year, I decided this is not the right place for me. Because I wasn't being me. I was hiding the fact of my whole self, and my whole self meant I was a proud mom. And if someone was going to judge me for being a mother, then that's not the right place to work. And I started to realize, and later on, that any company that I chose had to be a company that embraced who I was. And so I started joining companies and eventually started my own and defining my own company and what the kind of culture that I wanted it to be, that I wanted it to be diverse, that I wanted a lot of flexible policies, that I wanted to make sure that our employees felt they could be themselves. So I think it's really important as you go through that journey. We all go through that insecurity, but so much of it is really finding the place that you feel like harnesses the true you, because that is when you're unleashed, and that is the true power of really finding what you can do to make an impact in people's lives.
Terrific, thank you. So shifting gears a little bit, the Girl Scouts has just been on a tear for the last few years. It's growing, girls are flocking to this. It's playing such an incredible role, I think, in STEM education and bringing girls really into technology. But a little bit out of the blue, the Boy Scouts suddenly announced that they're going to have girls join. How has that affected Girl Scouts of America, and do you think that there is still a role for the Girl Scouts?
I love this question, so thanks very much for asking. And I thought it was really interesting. So here we are tonight, right? Why are we here? We're women, as Naracha said. We wanted to kind of come together, create community, really, make friends, learn new skills in a safe environment, right? That's exactly what we do at Girl Scouts, right? It's exactly what we do at Girl Scouts. And we're going to go out in the world of Dreamforce and, a very big co-ed environment and do our great things. But we get so much comfort, support, strengthening of who we are by gathering with like-minded people. And also, there's a lot of men in the room, and in Girl Scouts, we have T-shirts for you that say, man enough to be a Girl Scout. But, you know, at Girl Scouts, we really just focus on girls. You know, the girl is going to stay in Girl Scouts. And we have over 100 years of being experts in how girls learn and lead. And the type of success is kind of all around us. When we look at more than half of all the female elected officials in America, they were Girl Scouts. 3/4 of the US senators, Girl Scouts. Almost every female astronaut in space, she was a Girl Scout. Around the tech industry, the number of female tech leaders that were Girl Scouts is just a majority of them. And now, as you mentioned, we are on a tear, and we've really catapulted ahead of almost every other major nonprofit, where we are making sure that girls have the skills to really excel in the 21st century. Yes, we're going to continue to have great outdoor programs, and you might know about our great North Face partnership. And you probably know about our iconic entrepreneurial program, AKA Cookies. Yes. I can't tell you how many women have told me that that was really their start in business, was our iconic cookie program. Our life skills, but our STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We actually like to have S in front of it, singing, because we're still like that, you know, the science, the arts, the singing, the crafts. But, you know, we really have focused on not just teaching girls, obviously, having girls learn how to program, learn engineering skills, design skills, cybersecurity. It's been amazing to see the interest of girls in cybersecurity. So much so that I was shocked. I was like, I'm thinking cybersecurity's Dungeons and Dragons crowd. And yet, across America, girls said, we want cybersecurity. And when we dug into that, we realized they have digital lives. And they trust Girl Scouts. And they said, you know, Girl Scouts will help us manage who we are, teach us how to really live on life with our digital life. And then as you get older, you know, when they're younger, they really can't care about things like that. And then when they get older, they're really thinking about, you know, STEM is affecting our voting elections. STEM is affecting how we create communities. STEM is affecting so many things in our lives. It's right now remaking the $3 trillion fashion industry. There is so much. And we see that girls all have a mobile device in their hands. And we want girls to not just be the users, but the creators, the inventors, the designers of technology. But at Girl Scouts, we know how to get them interested in science and technology in a way that's relevant to them. So I like wearing this what you see here, this bracelet, is actually done by a daisy. These are my initials in code, 0s and 1s, except the blue is 0 and the yellow is 1, and it's S and A. We teach young daisies 5 to 6 how to get interested in coding by first doing this as their initials, and then they want a longer string because then they want their name, and then they want a longer string because then they want to write a sentence. They learn how to code. So at 5 and 6, coding is fun. It's something really interesting. And all throughout Girl Scouts, we really are experts in how girls learn and lead and doing things in a way that it resonates to them. They want to show and learn something so that they can make the world a better place. And my final example is, you know, when we're looking at teaching about design, and we were thinking about how do we teach prosthetics? Well, when we were talking to the girls and we realized they want to help. They want to create something that helps. And so the story is there's an elephant tribe run with matriarch, you know, the elephant lead is a female, and she gets trapped in a hunter's trap. And the tribe of herd, the herd of elephants will die with the leader being out of commission. So you've got to create a prosthetic leg. So think about what it would take to create a prosthetic leg for the elephant. Well, girls love that. They want to see the herd thrive. They want to see the elephant get back on its legs. But in the meantime, they're learning all these practical engineering, design, programming aspects in a way that nurtures them. So I'm so grateful you said we are on a roll. It's such an exciting time to be in Girl Scouts. And I wore this t-shirt, GIRL, go-getter, innovator, risk-taker, leader. So thank you very much.
So Sylvia has not only the best t-shirt, but obviously the best jacket as well. I hope you're all appreciating this. I'm incredibly jealous. So, Geisha, it's interesting to look at your field and contrast it to Sheila. So Sheila's coming from an area where most of the caregivers have traditionally been women, overwhelming number. And yet in the electrical world, a lot of the line jobs, at least, have almost exclusively been men.
Right.
Do you see that changing? And what do you see as, what does the future look like for P&G?
Well, it is a very male-dominated field, particularly as you mentioned, Amy, in the field jobs, whether they be welders or electricians, linemen, and so forth and so on. So you have to ask yourself, how do you feel about that? Is that okay? Thank you. My perspective is our workforce should be reflective of the communities we serve. And last time I checked, an awful lot of the folks in the community are female. So today, I can tell you that our workforce, when I look across all of it, so from the executive ranks through accounting, through the field organization, just a little bit under 30% are women. We're not there yet. If I look specifically at the field jobs, it's almost exclusively men. So what gets in the way? What are the barriers? And I think you've got to look at the data, and you need to understand what the impediments are to having more women come into these field type jobs. And what we found is that oftentimes they just don't know how to get into that. They don't even know that we're hiring electricians or linemen. It's not something that's offered as an option in many cases when they're in high school or in community college. And so what we've done is we've partnered with community organizations. There's a great one just in the East Bay called Tradeswomen, Inc. And they're all about women in trades, carpentry, plumbing, electrician, and now linemen and welders too. And by working with them, it's a workforce development organization, we can show that these great jobs exist. More than jobs, they're incredible careers with wonderful pay and benefits as an entry-level position that could lead to a wonderful career at a company like PG&E. So you have to be purposeful and deliberate and set for yourself a goal that you want to have more women in these non-traditional sort of roles, and put forth a process, a specific strategy, work with the community, and make it happen. So it's early days, but we're having some success. Terrific. And we like to call these groups cohorts, and we've had more than 100% women cohorts that are now studying to be apprentice linemen, apprentice electricians, and welders. We had 150 of our existing women in trades have a meeting, inviting people in the community, and this is my favorite part, inviting other women in the community as role models themselves, as examples of women in trades at PG&E. And you ready for this? You know what they said? If we can do it, why not you? Again, it's about really providing that role model experience, providing that opportunity, and being very purposeful and deliberate about your hiring, your recruiting, and your training programs. And I think that, you know, it's early, but when next time we talk, maybe 5 years from now or so, I think we're going to have a much better story to tell about how many women we have working in the field, if that's what they want.
That's terrific. So I made the mistake of checking my watch, which I wish I hadn't done, because I would like to continue talking to the three of you for the rest of the evening. Unfortunately, we've already gone 5 minutes over, so I'm going to ask you each just one quick final question. What is one piece of advice that you would give to people in this room as they're building their careers? Who wants to go first?
I will. Take the tough jobs. Learn whatever your industry is, whatever your company's all about, the core operations, the really difficult jobs, go for those. That's where you're going to develop incredible confidence in having done a difficult job well. It's where if you don't succeed, you're going to still show yourself as someone that's willing to do the difficult work, someone that's willing to take on the tough assignments. And by the way, when you do a great job in that tough assignment, the best thing of all is the confidence you now bring to that next job and the one after that. Confidence in something that you actually exercise and develop, and I think it's one of the secrets of success.
I think we're in, if we're not in one of the largest technology companies in the world in the conference that they're hosting, right? It's a very special time. It's also Mark's birthday tomorrow. And as a technology company, I'm often reminded how powerful artificial intelligence and machine learning, and how we need to encourage more girls to go into STEM. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I think of AI a lot. I also think I'm in the business of what I call HI, which is the human interface. That at the end of the day, if many of you in the audience probably are thinking, you know, I don't have kids, doesn't apply to me. I don't even have nieces or nephews yet. I don't even have dogs. I'm even worried about taking care of my plant. But we've all been kids. And the reality of the human interface side of so important the field that I'm in, but it's also career advice. That no matter what, we are in the technology space and we're all going to be technology companies. But let's not forget growth in career and leadership is to not forget the humanity that we all have in truly developing companies and developing your career at the core of it is to really care about people.
I mean, these women are all amazing, so I'm just really honored to be here. And I also think about another woman's quote, Maya Angelou, which was, when you get, give, when you learn, teach. If you think about that in your career and, you know, bring others along, don't be the only one. I think that you would be surprised. That will provide so many door openings because people will see you as an incredibly generous person. And especially with technology, I mean, I think one of the things that we're doing so much at Girl Scouts is we realize how much technology is changing everything. And we need more girls and women at the table making decisions about things that are going to dramatically impact our life. And so it's so important to think about that moment and how can you help others? How can you bring others along? And when you do that, that generosity of spirit will come back and really propel your career forward as well.
Terrific, terrific advice. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be up here with you. So thank you.